Okay, so let's look at this one. So we've got a power on a power, and in this one we have a power on a variable and a power on a coefficient. So let's have a look at that one. So that's going to be x to the power of 10. 5 times 2 is 10, so we've got that one sussed. 2 to the power of 3, so it's 2 times 2 times 2. That's just going to be the 8. So I'll put an 8 in there. And whilst we're here, x to the power of 3. So that's just going to be x to the power of 3. So let's just tidy this up. We've got an 8 as a coefficient, so let's put that down there. We've got x10 times x3, so that's just going to be x13. So that's a pretty nice one. Okay, so let's go for this one. So this is 8 x to the 1/2 all to the power of 2/3. So again, same process. It is power on a power, so you multiply, and power on a coefficient. So we just write that out. So that's 8 to the 2/3 times x to the 1/2 all to the 2/3. Okay, so let's have a look at that again. Remembering that the guy on the bottom is the root, and the one on the top is the power. So the cube root of 8 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. Now, if you can't do that, then just use your calculator. Just go 8 to the power of 2/3. Again, like I said in the previous video, make sure you wrap the 2/3 in a bracket. Okay, so this one is power on a power. So let's just multiply them. So let's just look at that. That's 1/2 times 2/3. And again, cancelling out. Well, that's going to cancel with that guy. It become 1 over 1. And so that's just going to be 1 over 3. So 1/3. So that comes x to the power of 1/3. So that's that one finished. Now, let's have a look at this one. Now, what you might notice is that in fact the top line here, or the numerator I should say, is exactly just the question that we've asked. I have just answered, I should say, not asked. And now we're dealing with the x to the power of -1/2 on the bottom. So we can replace the whole of the numerator with 4x to the power of 1/3. Why can we do that? Because they're exactly the same question. Now, let me just put this here, and the question is, now there's a couple of ways we can deal with this. First up, this is a power over a power, or a power divided by a power, so we could, if we wanted to, go 1/3, and when we've got power divided by power, we just simply we're going to subtract by -1/2. So that would then become 1/3 plus 1/2. And we do that in our calculator, we'll do that in our head, do the cross multiply, whatever combination you do, whatever process, and that comes out to be 5/6. So this would end up going that way. Clearing that all out, we end up with 4x to the power of 5/6 square rooted. Okay, one process. And then we're going to take the square root. Now remember that would be 4x to the power of 5/6 all to the 1/2. So again, that is power on a power, power on a coefficient. And let me just move that up so we can see it so it doesn't fall off the end of the page. And so half is square root. The square root of 4 is 2. And this is power on a power. So this is 5/6 times 1/2. So let's look at that. 5/6 times 1/2. Well, that's just going to be 5 times 1 is 5. And 6 times 2 is 12. So that's going to be x to the power of 5/12. Okay, so the thing I want to examine here is, just to make sure, we've got x to the power of 1/3, and we go 1/3 minus -1/2. Subtracting a negative is the same as addition, and that becomes 1/3 plus 1/2, which is equals 5/6, and then we carry on from there. Now, what I want to do is to focus on that question again, and just look at this step here again. So let me just put that in front there. So there is another approach or another idea that we could use. So let me just copy that out. And again, it's your choice which way round you go. Now, in this case, we could look at the negative and say, oh, wait, I know what to do with a negative. A negative is a reciprocal. So in a reciprocal, we take the power from, we take the reciprocal, sorry, the negative takes the reciprocal. So we take anything in the denominator goes up to the numerator. Okay? Because normally we see it the other way around. We see it from the numerator going down to the denominator. Now what's important here to remember is that we're only dealing with this guy, not with that guy. So this guy still stays the same. Nothing happening to it. And when we bring this up to the top, take the reciprocal from the denominator to the numerator, it goes up to here and becomes a positive 1/2. And there's actually nothing left underneath it. And then what we end up with is 4x, and then we add the 2 powers, which is exactly what we did up here. Okay, we subtracted 2, but we ended up adding the 2 powers. And so that becomes 5/6. Okay, and from that point, we carry on. Okay, so whichever way is your preference. Okay, and so that is the last video. It'll take me a few minutes to stop it. Done.